Making headlines tonight. The remains of Prince Norodom Ranariddh have been cremated on Wednesday, following a ceremonial procession in the capital on Wednesday's National Day of Mourning. The Vice President of Cambodia's People Party expresses support on Prime Minister Hun Sen's selection of successor. US President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin in rare talks to try and defuse a growing military crisis along the Ukrainian borders. Cambodian jet ski rider Saleh Umwet earned the first place for the third round at the Jet Ski Pro Tour 2021 in Thailand. This is the Daily Roundup on the EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. My name is Paolo Bonini. His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni and Queen Mother Norodom Moniniert Sihanouk have paid their last respect to Prince Norodom Ranariddh on Wednesday. A ceremonial procession was held in Phnom Penh on the National Day of Mourning, before the prince's body was cremated. The royal government's top leaders have also shown their last respects. EAC News reporter Ria Soka has the story.
សពចាប់ដើម នៅក្នុងខណៈនេះគឺកងទ័ពជក់កំពុងតែរៀបចំព្រឹត្តិការណ៍កាត់សពពីរថយន្តបុស្បុករំលីងរថយន្តបុស្បុកដើម្បីឡើងមកលើមេសម្គាល់រួចដល់ពេលដែលសម្គាល់ស្រេចបាច់ហើយការអញ្ជើញមកដល់របស់សម្ដេចថៃឈុំប្រធានរដ្ឋាភិបាលសម្ដេចអគ្គមហាជាចក្រេហេតុរិនប្រធានរដ្ឋសភាបណ្ដាអគ្គមហាសេនាបតីតេជោហ៊ុនសែននាយករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីនឹងមកអញ្ជើញមកដល់ជាបន្តបន្ទាប់ហើយនៅក្នុងកម្មវិធីផងដែរពេលវេលាម៉ោង 9 ការយាង
អ His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni has paid his last respect to his half-brother Prince Norodom Ranariddh on Wednesday morning. The king was accompanied by the Queen Mother Norodom Mininiet Sihanouk. The royal government's top leaders were also present during the ceremony of the day of mourning. Senate President Saichum, National Assembly President Heng Samrin, and Prime Minister Hun Sen all attended. A ceremonial procession was held on Wednesday early morning from the mortuary in the capital's Town Pen district, where the remains of Prince Ranariddh was laid for 3 days to Wat Butumbate for the cremation. The 8th of December has been declared by the royal government of Cambodia as the National Day of Mourning for the death of Prince Norodom Ranariddh. All ministries, institutions, and pagodas are ordered to put the flag on half-mast. Entertainment businesses are instructed to suspend operation, while selling alcoholic beverages are prohibited.
Cambodia จะที่สัญญาเชื่อกันได้ส่งกระดูกไทยของเราคนตัดอาเกะมุขกาคืออายุวันละสุขะสุยะสบายเพียงเสียลาย
នៅក្នុងឱកាសនេះព្រះកណ្ដាលជាអម្ចាស់ជាពលលើបោកជាទីគោរពសក្ការៈដល់ព្រះពុទ្ធនិងសម្ដេចព្រះមហាក្សត្រីបានយានិវត្តទៅកាន់ព្រះបរមរាជវាំងវិញហើយជាបន្តជាការអញ្ជើញទៅវត្តវិញរបស់សម្ដេចពីបុលសេនាធិការ
អ
The Minister of Foreign Affairs to Myanmar, U Wannamong, has concluded his meeting here in Cambodia. The meeting was hailed as being both beneficial and constructive, in a time when rising tensions in Myanmar are a global consideration. Myanmar, though, is very much an ally of Cambodia, and Cambodia acts as a conduit to continued political discussions with Myanmar on the world stage. Mun Wang Lin, Myanmar's foreign minister, paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Hun Sen, which featured an exchange of views on bilateral relations and recent regional development. He also visited Cambodia's foreign minister, Prak Sakhonn. There was also a candid discussion on how to support efforts in addressing the Myanmar crisis, as well as enhancing ASEAN's centrality and solidarity. While appreciating the result of the ASEAN Chair meeting in April, Myanmar also looked forward to welcoming and coordinating with the special envoy of the ASEAN Chair in fulfilling the 5-point consensus, including improving humanitarian relief delivery. The discussion extended into various ASEAN matters, as well as bilateral cooperation. Myanmar's foreign minister congratulated Cambodia as the incoming chair of ASEAN in 2022 and expressed full support for Cambodia's priorities and endorsing the joint effort to fight against COVID-19. In the joint effort to fight against COVID-19, Mun Wang Lin appreciated Cambodia's timely assistance in cash and kind, which contributed to Myanmar's effort to control and mitigate the severe impacts of COVID-19 to the country. Both sides agreed to enhance works in advancing cooperation on areas such as trade, economic, people-to-people exchanges, as well as cooperation on multilateral fora. There was further development when Prime Minister accepted an invitation to visit Myanmar on the 7th and 8th of January this year. The Vice President of Cambodia's People's Party, Sa Keng, has said that he respects Prime Minister Hun Sen's decision to select a future Prime Minister. In a message on Tuesday, Sa Keng, who is also the Minister of the Interior, says he has always respected and supported the decision of the General Assembly and the convention of the Cambodian People's Party. EAC News reporter Kong Srepo has the story.
CPP Vice President Sa Keng says he respects the decision of Prime Minister Hun Sen to select a candidate for Prime Minister in the future. He has added that he will also abide the decision of the Cambodian People Party, which has Prime Minister Hun Sen as its president. Sa Keng's message followed the announcement of the Prime Minister last week, saying that he is fully backing his son Hun Manet to be next in line as the future leader of the royal government to be his successor. Prime Minister Hun Sen later said that apart from his eldest son, he has 3 other prime ministerial candidates in mind, but did not divulge any names. The Prime Minister has also said that he wanted to serve more years in the royal government of Cambodia, at least the same level with King Panyayat, who served for 43 years. Next month, Prime Minister Hun Sen will celebrate his 37 years in power as the Prime Minister of Cambodia. Kung Srepo, EAC News.
The Australia-Cambodia Cooperation for Equitable Sustainable Services in the Kingdom has been working hard to fast-track programs benefiting persons with disabilities. On Wednesday, officials from Access, its partners and Secretary-General of the Disability Action Group, Aim Chan Makata, have met to evaluate the improvements since the Access program was established in 2018. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has the story.
The Australia-Cambodian Cooperation for Equitable Sustainable Services program is a 5-year, from 2018-2023, initiative undertaken with the financial support of the Government of Australia, provided through the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. It is working in close partnership with the Royal Government of Cambodia's ministries and departments, namely Ministry of Women's Affairs, Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation, Ministry of Economy and Finance, and Disability Action Council. The Access programs aim to contribute to the key priorities of the National Action Plan to prevent violence against women and the National Disability Strategic Plan. Secretary General of the Disability Action Council M. Chan Makara says many of the major achievements of the Disability Action Council under the Access Program, such as counseling, improved center management, better social protection, and opportunities for sub-national authorities and civil society organizations to work on disability and gender and disability issues in community investment plans and strengthen social accountability as well as assist victims of crime. He says violence is based on gender for the disability environment as well. He has added that in addition to this assistance under the Access Program, Cambodia has achieved the legal framework, policies, and plans for people with disabilities and helped to allocate government resources to people with disabilities, as well as Cambodia has achieved a coordination mechanism in disability sectors as well. The Secretary General of the Disability Action Council highlights that with the help of Access, 5 of 25 targeted provinces, namely Kampong Cham, Kampong Speu, Siem Reap, Battambang, and Tabong Khmer, have been assisted, creating a census of people with disabilities in 2019 and in conducting a national health census in 2021. Currently, under the auspices of Access Australia, more than 4,000 job opportunities have been created for people with disabilities. He says, with the help of Australia, the allocation of the government's budget for the protection of women increased by 48% between 2019 and 2021, and the disability budget for non-staff expenditures of the Ministry of Social Affairs almost increased 20% by 2021 as funding cuts to help victims of COVID-19 disease, helping over 60,000 people with disabilities to receive financial support for poor and vulnerable families during the fight against the COVID-19. Over the last 3 years, Australia committed over $10 million through the Access Program to improve the sustainability, quality, and inclusiveness of services for persons with disabilities and for women affected by gender-based violence. Recently, the government of Australia has also committed an additional more than $7 million through the Access Program for another 2 years to make it a 5-year program. Access Program logic has been updated to reflect the contribution of the program to the Cambodian government's COVID-19 response and recovery efforts, including its priorities on social protection. Yuri Matosco, EAC News.
Cambodia's daily COVID-19 numbers total now 120,300. On Wednesday, only 14 new cases were recorded, still below the usual average, which was usually in the 20s. That number does include 2 imported cases. 13 patients were successfully treated and discharged overnight. They make the total recoveries 116,655. There were deaths, though. 4 people lost their lives overnight due to COVID-19. But that is still a reduction from last week's averages. Cambodia's total deaths since the beginning of the pandemic now stand at 2,971. Active cases, 674. Cambodia's Minister of Education, Youth and Sports, Hung Jun Narong, has called for global participation of the strategic effort for early childhood development. The minister, who is also the chairman of the National Committee for Early Childhood Care and Development, has delivered a message during the launching of the joint strategic effort this week. EAC News reporter Ria Soka has more.
Minister of Education, Youth and Sports Hang Chun Naron has called on all member countries to take part in the implementation of the Global Partnership Strategy for Early Childhood Care and Development. Initiated by UNESCO and partners, the launching held on Monday is a global partnership strategy for early childhood development intends to respond to insufficient services to meet the early childhood's needs, such as preschooling, health, nutrition, hygiene, and child protection worldwide. It is also aligned with the 2030 agendas, which are the core principles for sustainable development to ensure that children can access a good care and quality education. Minister Hang Chun Naron reiterated the ministry's commitment to carry out the strategy to sustainably contribute to protecting and developing small children. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
The Battambang night lit up with the sound of repeated rounds being fired from a fully automatic AK-47 on Monday night. The sound was an echo back to darker days in Cambodia when Battambang was held under siege by the Khmer Rouge at the end of the 20th century. But this time it was due to a family argument. EAC news reporter Kong Srey Paul has the story.
Battambang police are hunting for a 54-year-old man named Sokong who fired the illegal weapon indiscriminately. According to the official report, at approximately 8 p.m. on Monday, the shots were fired at the perpetrator's house in the Samlo district of Battambang. The suspect owned the illegal weapon and while he was drunk argued with his son-in-law and fired a 21-round volley into the air, causing panic to people nearby. After discharging the weapon, the perpetrator then ran into the forest and disappeared. Police were called to the scene and fortunately nobody was injured. Since the gunman fled, he has not been seen. Police are still looking to locate the man, who is believed to be still aimed with the weapon and live ammunition. Kung Srey Po, EAC News.
The US President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin have spoken for roughly 2 hours by video conference on Tuesday. Their virtual conference was an effort to defuse a growing military crisis along the Ukrainian border, where tens of thousands of Russian troops have massed in what the United States officials say could be a prelude to an all-out invasion.
The meeting was one of the biggest foreign policy tests of Joe Biden's presidency to date, with consequences for the stability of Europe, the credibility of American threats, and the future of a country the United States has spent years trying to defend from Putin's aggression. Ukraine's fate still hangs in the balance. The leaders' video conference did not resolve the crisis along Ukraine's borders, and neither the Kremlin nor the White House reported substantial progress. The White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has said after the meeting that Biden had offered Putin the choice between a diplomatic solution and the severe economic and political consequences that would follow a Russian invasion of Ukraine. But he did not say whether Putin had made any commitments. Putin is standing firm. Whether Biden's threats will deter the Russian leader from invading Ukraine is unclear, but Putin was not conciliatory. A Kremlin readout of the meeting said that Putin blamed the tensions in the West, which he said was building up its military capability in and around Ukraine. And Putin demanded legal guarantees that NATO would not expand eastward toward Russia's borders or deploy offensive weapons systems in Ukraine.
Now for a look at news making international headlines this Wednesday, 8th of December.
Firefighters hampered by high winds in operation to douse a stricken ship carrying timber off Gothenburg on Sweden's west coast. The fire has started on Saturday and was still not under control and continues to burn for more than 4 days. The Swedish Civil Contingencies Agency have reported it had sent 2 helicopters while several other authorities and organizations continues fighting the fire. Firefighting efforts using 2 large Swedish Coast Guard ships along with private tugs hired by the ship owners continues. Although the fire continues to burn with undiminished strength, the flames are reported to be contained to the forward portion of the ship and limited to the timber cargo and not the ship itself. The work would continue for several days. The crew of the Almirante Storni remain on board, and there is now discussion about whether or not to try and take the bunker fuel from the stricken vessel. The 9-year-old 31,796 deadweight ton handy bulk carrier is managed by Germany's NSC and sails under the Liberian flag.
Iraqi military says a motorcycle rigged with explosives has caused a strong, massive blast, which killed at least 4 people and wounded dozens. The blast took place near a main hospital, setting fire to at least 1 vehicle and damaged a minibus. Bomb attacks in southern Iraq, where the bulk of the country's oil is produced, are relatively rare, particularly since the defeat of the ISIL armed group in 2017. There has been an increase in political instability in Iraq following the October 10 parliament elections, which saw populist leader Muqtada al-Sadr emerge as the biggest winner. Shia armed factions loyal to Iran, which lost around 2/3 of their parliamentary seats, have rejected the results of the election, alleging fraud.
UK commits almost $400 million to put a stop on drugs trade and to tackle drug gangs and boost rehabilitation for users, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced Monday at a police raid. The government has promised the largest ever investment in drug treatment and recovery as part of a far-reaching new 10-year strategy for tackling addiction and reducing crime in England. The cross-department plan comes as drug-related deaths in England and the rest of the UK have reached a record high in 2020, with deaths linked to cocaine and opiates rising sharply over the past decade. The strategy will be underpinned by almost $1 billion investment in treatment programs in the National Health Service and in the prison service, taking the total treatment and recovery spent to almost $3 billion over 3 years. There will be also more than $300 million investment to crack down on supply chains in criminal gangs profiting from the trade in illegal drugs.
I take the view that it's a long time really since you've heard a government say that drugs, Class A drugs, are bad and bad for society, bad for opportunity, bad for kids growing up in this country. That's my view, and I think it's something that we can tackle and we can deal with. You've got to be realistic. You've got to be humane. You've got to be compassionate. You've got to recognise that overwhelmingly the problem is caused by 300,000 people whose lives are simply chaotic, who are torn apart by their own addiction. You've got to help them. You've got to do rehab, but you've also got to come down very, very hard on the county lines gangs, and that's what we're doing.
Johnson believes that the strategy would tackle 300,000 problem drug users who account for about half of burglaries, robberies, thefts, and murders. The investment will see a crackdown on drugs gangs with an aim to dismantle 2,000 so-called country lines, networks used to drive the drug trades in rural areas of the country. The measures make part of the government's 10-year drugs strategy published on Monday, designed to address both the supply and demand for drugs.
After the break, a look at all the latest sports news.
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. EAC News' audience is growing. Our YouTube channel has over 150,000 verified subscribers. To mark the milestone, we've received the Silver Creator Award from YouTube. It's given to channels with over 100,000 subscribers. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says the award celebrates EAC News' hard work and incredible achievement. She says we brought a unique voice and style to the world, but have also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. The next milestone we're going for is 1 million subscribers, and we'd really like that Gold Creator Award. So if you're not already a subscriber, head to YouTube and search for EAC News. Subscribers get alerts when the daily Roundup is premiering and live events are streaming. Get all the latest breaking news and updates from Cambodia in English. The EAC News channel on YouTube. Cambodia made clear. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Cambodian jet ski rider Saleh Umud earns the first place for the third round at the Jet Ski Pro Tour 2021 in Thailand. The tournament's third round challenge has taken place last Saturday and Sunday, with athletes participating from Cambodia, Laos, the US, Germany and Thailand. Saleh Umud is a gold medalist for Asian Games in 2018. He says he did well during the third round competition as there were no problems with his jet ski. He got the first place for the 4 rounds, so-called perfect games. The Cambodian athletes attending the competition are Min Mastan, Min Osman, Kai Asfansan, Sally Fahin and Sally Umut. Sally Umut and his cousin Min Mastan were ranked 1st and 6th among the 8th jet ski riders for the subject of Pro-Am Ski Modified, taking place on the 30th and 31st of October. In the second round, contestants held last 21st of November, he was ranked 4th and his cousin earned the 1st place. There are a total of 4 rounds of the competition at the Jet Ski Pro Tour 2021. The International Ice Hockey Federation says the host China will participate in the men's Olympic ice hockey event at the 2022 Beijing Olympics, after having previously expressed concerns about the team's quality. As the host nation, China is guaranteed a spot in every event at the 2022 Games, but the IIHF said in September that there were doubts over the Chinese team's participation due to its insufficient sporting standards. The IIHF said on Tuesday its council completed a 2-day meeting in Zurich, where it discussed the status of the Chinese team and Olympic venue preparations, among other topics, ahead of February 420 Beijing Games. The IIHF president, Luc Tadiv, had said China's participation would hinge on player eligibility rules and the performance of the Kunlun Red Star, a China-based team stocked with Olympic hopefuls competing in Russia's Continental Hockey League. With Norway waiting in the wings to step in as a replacement, the Chinese Ice Hockey Association submitted up-to-date eligibility documents before the deadline, which were then reviewed by the IIHF along with the expert valuation report. China is in Group A along with 9 times gold medal winners Canada, twice champions United States and Germany. Meanwhile, the International Olympic Committee has said on Tuesday it respected the United States government decision for a diplomatic boycott of the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics in February over China's human rights record. IOC spokesman Mark Adams has said this is a political demand and they respect their right to take political decisions and them to respect the athletes' right to take part in the Games.
Really, what we would start by saying is, of course, that this is a political domain. It's a political decision, which we respect their right to take that decision. But what it also shows is that they respect the right of the athletes to take part in the Olympic Games. And I think that's very important. And if you're talking about inclusivity and universality, I think nothing better demonstrates that than the recent adoption at the UN of the truce resolution. 173 nations were co-signatories of the 193 countries. It was adopted by consensus. And the wording, I won't go into the wording of that resolution, but the wording very clearly says how important the role of the Olympic Games are in building bridges and bringing countries together, recognised by consensus, by the world's politicians.
Meanwhile, Adams defends the IOC handling of the issue of Peng Shuai, the tennis player who allegedly sexual assaults against the leading Chinese Communist Party politician, and Samrak. There were no current circumstances under which the Winter Olympics may be cancelled due to COVID. England's cricket selectors said on Tuesday that they have omitted Johnny Barstow from their 12-man squad for the Wednesday Ashes opener in Brisbane and opted to keep seasoned paceman James Anderson in reserve for the second pink ball test in Adelaide. With no time for tour matches and international games disrupted by rain, players will go in cold into the opening battle of cricket's most enduring rivalry. Mark Wood was named with fellow quicks Stuart Broad and Ollie Robinson, but may end up making way for spinner Jack Leach, depending on the Gabba wicket. If Wood is preferred, Joe Root, captained England, could go in, with 5 seam bowling options, with Ben Stokes and Chris Wokes including as all-rounders. Anderson is fit, but is being rested for the match in Adelaide, the team says. England clarified that Anderson had no injury concerns after media reported he had been ruled out of the Gabba test due to a calf strain. With Butler confirmed as wicketkeeper, middle-order batsman Ollie Pope is set to be the beneficiary of Barstow's omission and will have a chance to build upon his 81 in the 4th test against India at the Oval.
I think just with the build-up everyone's had, I think the guys just want to make sure everyone's perfect to go. No, Jimmy's not going to play, but he is fit. It's obviously a very long series, and we want a guy like that to be available to play as much part in it as possible. So I think it's just a bit precautionary. He bowled well yesterday, bowled again today, and obviously bowled a few spells in that couple of days we had as a warm-up game. So he is fit, but the guys are just being a bit precautious.
Australia's players will also be keen to ease the burden on new captain Pat Cummins, as the hosts hope to show the series deciding loss to India at the Gabba in January was an aberration. Cummins said he would lean heavily on vice-captain Steve Smith for tactics and field placement, while leading Australia's pace attack.
Yeah, I feel in a really good place. I always say I like to be underdone more than overdone going into a test series. Body feels great. We've had probably about 4 or 5 really good centre wickets whilst we've been up here in Queensland over the last few weeks, and just feeling a really good place. All the quicks are bowling really well. Got enough overs under our belt, but feel really fresh and no niggles or anything heading to the first test.
Australia have not played a test since the 2-1 defeat to India. Now let's have a look at the weather and see what you can expect for tomorrow. A mummy found in Peru and thought to be between 800 and 1200 years old is now on display at the San Marcos University in Lima. It was in November that Peruvian archaeologists disclosed the finding of human remains in an underground tomb on the outskirts of Lima, surrounded by pots, ceramics, and gourds containing vegetable remains as well as stone tools.
The pre-Inca mummy was in a fetal position and tied with ropes, which was probably a local burial rite. The university is now housing the mummy, remains from at least 2 infants and objects found in the ancient tomb while its researchers analyze them.
We found a site commonly known as a matrix that consists of holes, which are about 2 meters in depth. As we went deeper into this matrix, we found a burial site with the remains of an infant's garments bundle, mates, ceramics, and this cocoon shape tied together with the same string.
Peru, home to tourist destination Machu Picchu, has hundreds of archaeological sites from cultures that developed before and after the Inca Empire, which dominated the southern parts of South America 500 years ago, from southern Ecuador and Colombia to central Chile.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup here on the EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, check out our website, eacnews.asia, or search EAC News on Telegram or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.